So just wanted to give you a quick tip on putting these wheels on, these bud wheels on, the Deuce and a half. If you don't have a wheel lift, these tires are kind of cumbersome and heavy to put on rims. So what I like to do is I get the wheel just barely up, and just barely up, so that you can, and then I'll dig a little bit sometimes to get it right, so the wheel, it just has enough room to go on, and it actually makes it easier if you do that. You could jack it up above the ground just right and do that, but it's easier to dig that. If you're on dirt, it's easier to just dig a little bit. I just use a flat shovel, just kind of scrape it down a little bit. You could probably even do it with a rake. So just enough, because putting on these hubs, putting that wheel on the hub, if you have to sit here and pick it up and hold it at just the right height, it can be a bit much to do that. So that really makes a difference if you get it just high enough. And I also like to put my valve stems on the wheels so they're exactly opposite each other. And that way it's easier to put air in them. If they're in the same hole, it's almost impossible to put air in them if they're in the same hole. And I think that when you put it on the opposite, just like putting a split on the opposite on the wheel, the rim itself, I think it balances the weight out a little bit better as well. So let's kind of get this in position, and tuck that wheel in there. And let's see. Okay, so that's barely above the ground. And I didn't have to really do any lifting. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to start putting up my lug nuts and torque those down to spec. But just wanted to show you that quick little tip. For anybody that's taking those wheels off and putting them on, they probably know you probably know what I'm talking about. If you jacked it up and then you're going to pick the tire up and put it on the axle, it makes it a little bit easier, so you're not having to hold it up. And of course, if you have wheel lifts, then you can just use those.